Hi everyone, my name is Cassandra, or my cosplay handle Sierra Dahlia, and I'm going to make a cosplay log about a specific project I'll be working on. And I'll be working with Worbla, but for this particular project I'll be making armor vambraces for Chrono from Chrono's Crusade. And here's a reference picture for you. Sinner Chrono. Tasty, yes. I'll be making this piece down here for this particular video, the vambrace, which is the lower arm piece. And I'll go through a step-by-step process on how I make it and the various supplies and whatnot that I need in order to do this. I'd like to apologize in advance. My camera is my webcam, so it's facing me directly, which means unfortunately all my images will be mirrored. So if I show a picture or a product or something and it's backwards, that's why. And unfortunately I lack the funds to purchase video publishing software because I'm a broke cosplayer. And as we all know, if cosplayers get money, where's that money going to? It's going to go to cosplay supplies and fabrics and con registrations and hotel rooms and stuff like that. First world problems, cosplay priorities. So I hope you enjoy, and hopefully I can provide some tips to someone out there if you need any assistance. But like I said, this will be my first time doing this, so hopefully things go well. Before we get started, let's go over the supplies that you will need. First off, you'll need foam sheets. They either come in packs of 10 to 12 or in a roll. And here I picked up a pack of these from my local Walmart in the crafting hobby section, and it cost no more than 10 bucks. Actually, it was less than that, I believe. It's been a while. But you can get them in packs of these, and the sheets for this one, it's about 8.8 by 17 inches, so that's pretty nice size to work with. Also, if you look at a Hobby Lobby or some type of a crafting store like that, they will carry this on a roll, which is very nice to work with when you're making larger pattern pieces. You'll need a pencil, pen, or marker, whatever you like to use. Cutting implements. Exacto knives with replaceable blades, because Worbla does not like exacto knives. As a friend of mine said, it disrespects the hell out of them. And of course, your trusty pair of crafting scissors. Just remember, do not use your fabric scissors. A heat gun. I have a cute one. Mine's all adorable and purple. I picked this up at my local crafting store also, Hobby Lobby to be exact. And it works just like the industrial heat guns that you'll pick up at the home stores like Home Depot or Lowe's. And this one in particular has a setting on it to where it goes from high heat to low heat. I just adjust it to wherever I like to use it on. And it's really nice, so I can actually regulate the heat temperature flow onto my product that I'm using when I'm heating it up later. And also, this one in particular, the model I got, it folds up so I can use it for storage easily. Cute, isn't it? Next, we need rulers. Woo! And this is used so you can measure out stuff, make your straight edges. Also, I got a smaller one and French curve. Can never be without these. They're very handy. I have paint as well. It depends on what you want to go with. Some people like to use acrylic paints. Some people like to use hobby paints. I would suggest that you go with what you feel is best and that what you're most used to and comfortable working with. In my case, I have three. I have, well, technically two of these are paint. We'll get to the third one for later. This one in the middle is my white paint, which I use for my primer. This will be my finished color paint. It's a pewter gray color. And finally, I have a gesso. And a lot of you are wondering, why is this in a spray can? I decided for this particular project to try something different. I have used liquid gesso before, the kind you get in a jar and you spread on with a paintbrush, but sometimes it gets kind of tedious. And when you're doing layer of layer of layer of that stuff, it gets kind of old. So I decided to give this spray stuff a try. And I found it, so you can see better what it looks like. Ta-da! I found this in the normal area I would find gesso at in my local arts and crafts supply store. It was in the aisle with the jars of gesso, with the painting easels, and things of that nature. So if you're looking for it, you know where to find it at now. And finally, Worbla. Yay! It comes in various sheet lengths and it'll come in a roll, rolled up like so. And it has two sides. One's the dull side, it's matte looking, and it's kind of textured to the touch when you touch it. And then the reverse side is very shiny, and it feels rather smooth. When you're working with this, you use the heat gun, you apply the heat onto it, and this side, the matte textured side, will become adhesive. It'll become very sticky, and you'll be able to apply things to this to make them stick together. Also, another thing I would like to warn you about the Worbla, well, not warn, but recommend that when you're done using it, keep all your scrap pieces, because you'll never know when you may need it for another project. Those little pieces come in handy. And also, you can build up those pieces together to make one unified piece if you have the patience to do it. It's not really hard. Works just like Wonderflex for those of you who have used it in the past. And of course, if you're doing a specific project that had more types of raised details and surfaces like that, then you'd have other little things that we use to have on hand. But for this particular project, these are all the things that I need to make my armor. Now that we have all the tools we need, let's get started. First off, you're going to go ahead and draw your pattern onto the craft foam right here. And you're wondering, how do you get an armor pattern? Well, for me, I used Kamalee's armor patterning tutorial on YouTube. You can go straight to her YouTube channel, or you can go to her Facebook page, and I'll provide a link to you later on. It's a very simple process, just involves a few plastic bags and some duct tape or masking tape. And all you do is simply wrap the area that you want to make a pattern from, like so. And then cover the area fully that you want to make it out of. Next, you get the tape, and you continuously wrap and cover everything evenly. After everything is wrapped, you'll go back with your trusty marker or pen, draw out the shape of the armor that you're trying to make, and make sure you do around the wrist and around up here on the upper arm. After you do that, carefully cut out the shape properly and then cut it away from the arm. And that's it. It's pretty simple. And here's the one I made from the person that's going to be wearing this. All I did was, like I said, had it wrapped around in the bag, taped over it a bunch of times, and then cut it out. After I traced out the pattern on it, I cut it out. Well, next thing you do is you get this little nifty pattern that you made out of duct tape. You lay it down onto your craft foam. Next, you'll just get a pen and trace out the shape onto the craft foam. Pretty simple. After you've transferred the pattern on over, you just use scissors or exacto knife, depending on if you have any precise little edges to get around, and you cut it out. And there it is. It's cut out. And I just toss away the excess. We'll clean up later. And to make life a little easier on you, you may want to make a marking on there saying what area of the body it covers, so you won't get confused later on when you have pieces all over the place and you get kind of perplexed on what to do with them. Next, I made a clean version of my pattern. Basically, again, same thing. I took this, put it on another piece of craft foam, traced it out, cut it out again, much more evenly and neater. And get you out of the way, I created a new pattern, and this will be my actual pattern I'm going to use to make my vambrace out of. And when you do this step right here, make sure you put any placement lines that you need to put on there or any reference marks so you can remember exactly what to put on your armor, where to put it at, because if you don't do it, you may be a little forgetful and skip that process altogether. And for mine, I made sure I pointed, labeled where the body part is at, and this is going on the lower arm. And then I labeled the arrow saying top, meaning that's going to be top. In this case, top is the arm's like this, and this arrow's pointing up to the top of the arm. So I knew which area, where it went in properly. And there were some little detail marks that I put on here, like a little trim here, and there's a little trim down here as well, to remind myself later I need to put those little things on there because they're necessary. And then there's a little couple of rivet pieces. And then there's little lines on here to remind myself that I need to put little detail marks for that as well when I transfer over onto the Worbla. So, pretty simple. Just make sure you put all your little notes and details on there for what you need to do next. Now that you have your pattern piece completed, let's go ahead and transfer it over to the Worbla. It doesn't matter which side of it is you use, whatever works for you and you feel most comfortable writing on, or it's easiest for your writing tool to show up clearly. You'll take your pen and you'll go ahead and trace around the thumb pattern piece. And keep in mind, when you're doing this, to not trace exactly around the pattern right close to it. Give yourself about 1/4 of an inch at the most gap so that the Worbla tracing will be bigger than your pattern piece. After you do that, you'll go ahead and cut out your Worbla with either the exacto knife, depending on if you have any little sharp detailed little precision areas to work with, or your trusty crafting scissors. And you'll use the pattern to cut out as many pieces of Worbla that you need dependent upon your project. Also, I'd like to remind you that if you're working on a project that has multiple pieces of a pattern, please keep in mind that you need to also cut out multiple pieces of your craft foam because you'll need to integrate this into your Worbla later on. So for this particular project, I'm making 2 vambraces. You would cut out 2 craft foam patterns, which I actually have 2. I can go back and clean up that first one I used as my beta version if I really wanted to. But you'll have to make sure you have the proper amount of craft foam pieces to go with whatever thing that you're working with. So just like I said, craft foam on top of Worbla, trace it out slightly bigger than the pattern, and cut. How many pieces do you need to cut? It's, again, based on what you're making. If you're making a vambrace, like in my case, you cut out 2 Worbla pieces. There are some people I know that have done this slightly differently, and I've seen it both ways, where they'll actually cut out double the amount. And you're wondering why. I'll show you a little bit, and you'll understand it all pretty clearly. But basically, they'll cut out 2 Worbla pieces, and then they would sandwich the foam in between it to give it more stability and strength because they thought it wasn't sturdy enough or big enough. And I'd say do it if you're comfortable doing that. For this, I didn't need nothing that thick, so I'm only going to go with 1 piece. But let's say if I were making something like a breastplate or something like that, that was a bit more bulky, seemed to be more durable, I would actually do that and do the double pattern pieces so I can sandwich it and make it a bit more thicker and bigger to work with. Just something to keep in mind. But now that this is cut out, I will go ahead and cut on my heat gun and heat up the Worbla. And remember, when you're heating up your Worbla, there's 2 sides. There's the shiny side, and the reverse side is all matte.